Video 3. So moving on from Picasso, whereas in the last video, I've kind of looked at another artist, sculptor. His name's Richard Sierra. He works on a very large scale sculptor, creating these masterpieces out of metal, which need engineers and construction workers to help set them up. And he works around this one verb list, and some examples on it: to roll, to crease, to fold, to start, to bend, to shorten, to twist, to rotate, to swirl, to support, to hook, to wrap, to dig, to tie. Basically, I feel I can link this into different emotions, like which relate to which verbs can relate to each emotions, which effects come from each emotion, how you can work with a different goal in the end. Rather than looking at the emotion specifically, I think using these verbs to create something would rather create an emotion or something that could be linked to an emotion, rather than trying to make an emotion out of nothing. So I've looked at the verbs, I've used quite a few and just created stuff from them. But yeah, so down here there's a nice quote: rather than prompting you to simply observe, Sierra makes you constantly renegotiate your relationship to an artwork. So I quite like that in itself, just because it makes the viewer feel like it's a part of the artwork, or renegotiating how that artwork affects you. So it's quite a nice little quote. So these are some of the samples which I created, each one using a different verb from the different list. And I've just kind of done it how I think it would. So some of them overlap, some of them I did twice, some I couldn't think of. I just kind of went for it. I used the same colours throughout, so the pink, the green, the blue and the purple. I wanted to keep it as a unit rather than mix it up using lots of different colours. I wanted to keep this sample or this series of work as one, using the same colours, even though the marks and the verb used for that piece may be different. So I'll run you through a couple of these ones. So the first one here, this is of friction. So for this one I just rubbed two pieces of paper together with paint on them both, and the result of it, from it I kind of got confusion, mixed emotion, brightness, a bit late, just the colours, the mess of colours could represent emotions, how they're all confused, just mixed together. To here, from here I had to shave, so I just laid down the paint, laid it over and used a razor to shave it off. So for this one I thought could easily represent self-harm, because generally it's a razor blade, and sadness because it's opening up, it's links to self-harm again. Here to flood, so this could be quite anxious, flooded with emotion, quite worried, just getting on top of you, but I quite like that one as well. Over here we've got to layer, so this could be hidden, the different layers of emotions hidden underneath, could be the mental health issue or what you're trying to hide, like the sadness of something happening or your true emotion to something. As well, it could be scared, again hidden, can't talk to someone about something, confusion, the mixture of paints, the different colours through. Again, I'm using quite cheap paints, but I think the effect that it gives is really nice. So the confusion of colours underneath, you might see something even though it's something different. Here we've got of fire. So with this one I just put the paint down, spread it out kinda, and then just set it on fire and let the paint dry So the paint was still wet while I set it on fire. But this one I thought could be quite angry, quite frustrated. Obviously when you see in fire, you're angry. And I think this does represent, replicate through, because it's obviously got the darker patches where it's burnt. There's the holes through it, which could represent holes in emotions because anger's destroyed it. Holes in relationship because anger's broken down or broken a relationship in itself. With family or with friends, anything like that. I think that's quite nice as well. And then on the end we've got to spread. So I really like the result of this one, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I just used a butter knife and spread the paint out. I lay the paint on and then just spread it out. So the mixture together is quite nice, but you've also got the streaks from where you'd obviously, the little grooves on a butter knife. So for this one I thought it represents being quite exhausted. You've obviously spread out, your emotions are spread out in different directions. Almost like you're burning the candle from two ends. It's spread out, everything's just exhausted, that sort of stuff. Mentally and physically tired, empty, spread out in so many different directions, and then just physically drained. So I do quite like the effect that one gives, because again you've got the interlocking colours, the changing, and then the thin paints just shows the colours up really nicely. Okay, so they were the ones that I thought that were the nicest out of the bunch. So over here we've got the ones which are nice, which I could work from, which I quite like to look at because it gives me ideas of what I could do, but these ones aren't the ones that turned out as nicely. So, well, they did turn out nice, but not as nice. So this was to simplify and to smear. And then again we've got to shave, but this one I just did simply with the block colours afterwards. Again, I do quite like how it's shaved out. To smear, so just smeared the paint across the paper. With that one I do quite like it because again you've got the changing colours as you've smeared it across the page. I think it's quite a messy one, that one, so if I'm wanting a messy look for the final thing, it would be quite nice. That could be linked to, again, exhaustion, a bit of anger because of the smearing. Obviously it's quite an aggressive motion. Again, to smear, this one I just used my fingertip for. I feel like this one's just a bit jumbled up. It could represent confusion again, just everything happening at the same time, everything all over the place. Could represent mix of emotions, so like anxiety as well, just thinking about everything at the same time. What else have we got? And then to fold, I do quite like this one. This could represent, it would be a really nice one to represent disorder where you've got obviously like a bit like bipolar where there's like two different sides to it. But yeah. To roll, I do quite like this one again, and then we've got to roll again here. These are two different ones. This one I just used a pencil and rolled it across the page, and this one I actually rolled the paper. This one I do actually quite like. It's more messy. It's the same on both sides if you look. It is more messy, but again it's as if like the emotions just gone all over the place with structure, which could represent a mental health disorder in itself. Having structure and not being able to cope with people, not being able to see your physical pain. But yeah. So this one, again, I do quite like it. This was to mix. So I just popped the colours onto the page and mix it together with the back of the pencil. But it's with the grooves, you can see what's underneath. So I quite like the idea that it's as if you can see the subconscious underneath and it's hidden by the purple and the dark on top. So this one could be, it could be hidden, it could be scared underneath this cloak, it could be a mix of emotions. No pun intended. Okay, so again we've got to swirl. Again that one's quite like the smear over here. To swirl, to crumple. So I do quite like this one. It's kind of distressed and destructive, which could relate to quite a lot of different emotions, especially like sad and angry, as if you chuck a piece of paper that you're done with across the room, or even it's quite an aggressive motion. Especially with this thick paper, you have to properly aggressively go for it to crumple it. So it is quite a nice one, and the way the paint mixed in with it, so I did one layer of paint with the green, added the blue in on top and mixed it in with the crumples, and I do like how it's absorbed into the creases more, so it's a bit more distinguished where the creases are. Again, this could relate to quite a few different emotions, like could be like vulnerable, how it's seeped into the cracks and it's kind of there as if it's broken, like a glass mirror. Yeah. Again, another one to flood. This was to flood. Again, I just dropped the paper into some water, let it absorb the water, and then just popped the paints on top and just smeared it into the paper. I really like the effect this gives. This one, I don't think it's as powerful as the others. I think it's more of a background noise, so it could, emotions wise, it could mean a lot, but because of everything that's happening, so again, linking back, it's in the subconscious, this could be a background, it's quite moving and it's quite detailed, but it's not powerful, it's not bold like the mixed one would be. It's more distinguished and it's more everything's happening but it's all flowing together. Oh yeah. And then finally there's to rotate. So this one I quite liked. It's quite, again, it's whole shape, so it's all linked together, and I just used a glass and swirled it in the paint, and I feel like this gives the whole look quite a loved and content and happy feel to it, just because of the circular motions. Again, more swirls, the simplicity of it, it just makes it feel nice. And like, again, with the mixture of the paint, it could link to something else, but from my opinion, I feel like it's just quite content, quite happy, and it's nicely done. So yeah, on from this, I did link different ones together. So again, different colours, different theme, so to say. It is, again, still using the Richard Sierra verb list, but I've linked them together to see what they would look like if I was to kind of layer them up, and what different emotions would build from it, because obviously you can feel more than one emotion at one time and it all builds together. So this one here, this was to mix and to spread. So again, I used the butter knife, but the mixing to begin with mixed the paints up with the colours. So underneath the bright colours, and that's hidden with the darker colours on top and the brown, but you can still see the brightness coming through the lines from the butter knife. I thought this one was quite isolating, because obviously the hiddenness of underneath, it could be singular and isolated off from the world. From here, this one I used to mix and to fold, so I mixed it together and then just folded it over. Again, you can see the colours underneath, but it's the brown that's coming through, which is kind of hiding nice bright colours underneath. This one looks quite confusing, a lot's happening in this one, and you can't be quite sure where to look, but I do still quite like the effect that it gives, just because it makes everything kind of, makes you look at it twice rather than just go, oh, that's happening. So yeah, this one I don't like as much. I don't feel there's as much, I do like it with the bright colours and everything in the different directions. I just feel it is more simplistic, it is more just doing everything. This one I did once the paints was dry, so with this one it's not really mixed together and gone brown like these previous two. This one was to roll, so I rolled the pencil again, and just to layer, so I layered the paints on top of each other. But yeah, I do really like this one here. So this was one of my favourites that I created. This is to spread and rotate. So again, I put the paints onto the page and spread it with a butter knife, and then like on the previous page, I used a glass and rotated within to the paint as it was drying, so it has mixed together slightly and gone quite brown. But again, you can see the lines from the butter knife, and with this one it feels like quite loved again because the whole shapes, but underneath it's confused with the mixture of the colours. It's empty with the spread out layers. It's as if it's spread out across the page. This one I could easily relate to someone feeling loved but also not knowing what to feel, as if it's the only thing they know how to. I feel like this one could, the effects in this one and the boldness of it, but with all the little details as well, could be quite confusing, an emotion that's quite confusing. It could also mean lots of different things. I do quite like this top bit here where you can just see the lines and it's cut through by the ring. But yeah, and then here I'm not too keen on this one. I feel like it's, although I do quite like being busy, this one's to layer and to smear. I feel like adding the smears to it just kind of makes it look childish, as if the paper was mucky. With the green and the overlaying, it could be confused, it could be childish, it could link to obviously childish emotions like playfulness, just messing about. But I'm not as keen on that one as I am the other ones. So yeah, I'll stop the video there, and yeah, see you next time.